Hawaii. I'm from Honolulu, and I'm just learning about traditional wayfinding and Polynesian navigation. And today we gave a little lesson about how we observe our universe using the star compass. And so basically, Nainoa, who's a navigator, learned from Mau Piailug about wayfinding back in the 70s, and Mau allowed him to adapt the Micronesian star compass to create a Hawaiian star compass. And the Hawaiian star compass is divided into 32 different sections, which we call houses. And in this demonstration, we're building a star compass, which any school, any child can build using 32 rocks or shells or anything that you have available to start learning how to orient yourselves to the planets, the moon, the stars, the swells, and the wind. Anything? So basically we put down the 4 quadrants, so north, south, east, and west, and you align whatever you know is in the sky. So for tonight, the sun was setting 21 degrees north of west, and so I aligned the western rock a little bit south of that, because then you can align the entire star compass so it's accurate, yeah? So it lines up with the North Star, and south is true, and east is true. And then in every single quadrant, it's divided into 8 houses. And when we say houses, it helps us remember where stars live, and when they go to bed, they go to bed in the same house. So that helps kids understand that stars don't cross the equator when they rise and set. They actually stay parallel to the equator when they rise and set. So first is La. When you go from east, we'll just go La on either side, which means sun. And then it's 11.25 degrees in every single house. That's just how it worked out symmetrically if you divide a circle into 32. And then the next house is Aina, which means land. The following house is Noyo, which means a bird, a seabird, which we use to navigate. And then Manu, which is 45 degrees. So if you're heading northeast, you could say we're actually heading Ko'olau, Manu Ko'olau, instead of saying northeast. So then we just started to line up the star compass. So you start putting from east, you say La is the first rock from east, and that means the sun. And then it's symmetrical, so you only really need to know 8 different houses. Then the next house above is Aina, and then the following house is Noyo, which is the seabird that we used to navigate. And then you get to Manu, which means bird, and that's a 45-degree cross-section. Then Nalani, which means the heavens. Naleo, which means a voice in the heavens. And then Haka means nothingness. There's not many stars around the polar regions, north and south. And then basically that compass reflects on itself. It's a mirror. So then you go from north to Haka, then Naleo, Nalani, Manu, then Noyo, Aina, and then La. So the laws are directly due east and west, which makes sense, right? Because the sun rises east and west. And then I'll teach you the names for north, south, east, and west. So when we talk to the kids about how to remember these names, you think about when you wake up and when you go to bed. So when you're rising, Hikina means to rise. The sun rises out of the ocean, and then it enters into the ocean. Hokomohana is west, it means entering. And then your right hand means a cow, so that's north. And then your left hand is hema, which means south. So when you look at the moon and the sun, you try to ask the kids, when you put the rock or anything on La, does it go directly across? The sun is 21 degrees north right now. So if you put the sun in Aina, where will it go across the sky? Will it cross the equator and go south, Aina. And some people think maybe it goes south. Or does it go directly across and stay parallel to the equator? So it doesn't, the solar, the sun, the moon, the planets, the stars, they rise in the same house every night, they go to bed in the same house, and they never cross the equator. They go parallel to the equator. But the swells and the wind, they cross. So a swell could come from Manu Kolau, and it could cross into Manu Kona. Same with the wind. So you just have to know what you're using and then which way it moves. So now what we do is we try and orient the canoe on the star compass. So I'm using this phone as the canoe, and the front of the phone is the Manu, which we call it, is the front of the canoe. And the two sides are the two hulls. And so if you were to orient the sun on the beam of the phone of the canoe, then that 90-degree angle would mean you're heading south. And sometimes it's as simple as that. But because today the sun was 21 degrees north, you would compensate for that because there's 32 lines in the canoe. So you would use the compass on the canoe to orient the sun to head south. And tonight we'll see Hokulea above us, and we'll see Hikianalia next to it. Hokulea rises in Aina. So if you knew Hokulea was rising in Aina, you'd put Hokulea on the Aina marker on the canoe and you'd still be going south. So sometimes we get glow sticks with the kids and we make a big star compass, and the kids sit inside of it and they start watching the stars rise, and they say, oh, that star's in Aina, that star's in La, and they start making songs about it or chants about it, and they start memorizing where they live. Our kids are moon journals. So Nainoa would tell us to go for a month and watch the moon rising or setting every single night and watch it changing. And that's a really good thing for kids and teachers to do, to start seeing that the moon does move every night. When does it move? Where does it go? And it goes through the zodiac. And so you can do that with the sun too. I'm 29 years old. And as an 8th grader, I love the ocean, but I didn't know why. I just wanted to go surfing. And back then, my parents didn't want me to surf. They wanted me to play tennis and organize sports to get into college. So I played tennis all my life, but I always wanted to surf. So I taught myself to surf. I rented a board every weekend, taught myself to surf. So I always had a passion for the ocean.
Do you still surf?
I surf every day.
Long or short?
I shortboard, yeah. I learned how to make my own boards, and that made me understand the waves and how they move and how you move with the waves, so I love surfing. I went to college and I studied film, and actually I went to teach in Okinawa, Japan, and the first time I saw Hokulea was in Japan when she sailed into my fishing village, literally next door to my house, and that was she called me back home. And ever since then I've been volunteering, and you know how it goes when you start volunteering with something, you get really into it, and now I help with education programs.
So where were you born?
I was born in Oahu. Born in Oahu.
Okay. Wow. So why Japan?
I'm Japanese, I'm half Japanese. I wanted to know more about that side of me, and so I went to look for my family in Japan, and I just needed an adventure after college. I didn't know what to do with my life, and who knows, Hokulea found me, and I followed her all the way up to Yokohama and got to meet my family in Hiroshima. And just that Hokulea actually brought me back to connect with a part of myself I never knew existed, and then she brought me back to Hawaii. Hokulea is a Polynesian voyaging canoe. She's a replica centennial for America. In the 70s, and she was meant to prove that Polynesians could intentionally navigate. They didn't drift back and forth, but they actually knew the paths across the ocean. And so she successfully found Tahiti in 1976, and ever since then she's been reviving Polynesian voyaging since the last 38 years now.
One last question. Do you still do anything with film?
I think what's really important is knowing how to tell a story. So I don't necessarily make films right now, but telling the story of what you're passionate about for anyone, any age, is a skill that I think everyone should know. So I use that every day, every single day.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I hope it helps.